All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to those on the Zoom. My name is JD. I'm the interpretation manager at the West End Museum. And this is my colleague Bob.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob. I'm the curator and archivist at the West End Museum.
So we're here to talk to you tonight about whenandwhereinboston.org, and give you a chance to learn how to use it, why you should use it, and at the end, we're happy to answer any questions. And if you're feeling inspired and want to go off and do research, we're going to be here for a little bit to help you out with that. So, without further ado. hmm, There we go. So what is When and Where in Boston? So it is a site that collects short illustrated descriptions of almost everything that's ever happened, been built, made, said, or done in Boston. So it's an ongoing public history project with contributions by the community, and edited by expert historians. So what's great about this is that this is public facing, but anyone can contribute to it, and anyone is able to do the research, make suggestions, create entries, but it will be checked by experts. Um, and yeah. All right. So here's just a couple of the things you can find on the website. There's this interactive map, which has pins all over the map. If you've ever used Google Maps and you can click around to like different restaurants or museums or sports places, like all of that, it's basically that, but with history. So just as an example, I can zoom in on this pin right here. But I will give it, sorry, I keep forgetting I haven't swapped these slides. The other thing you can find is a calendar of historic events. So there's a this day in history, often with multiple different events on the same day. So just as an example, December 3rd, 1859, Martin Lomasney, after which Lomasney Way, where the museum is located, is named. And December 3rd is his birthday. So, you can also find collections that help you find out more about the city. They're all kind of organized in various ways. So you have biographies, you have buildings, you have events, you have neighborhoods, and you have works which include literature, art, music, etc. So like I said before, we're going to take a look at the pin. So you can really explore the city by looking at the pins and, walking through, and, if you're going on a walk somewhere, maybe you can see what has happened there by looking on your phone in advance. So the pin that I was just showing you is Anne Hutchinson's house. The event that this is commemorating is her conviction for heresy. And as you can see, there is a short description here of the event. There's sources and links to nonprofits that do history in the area. Um, so you can use what you discover to spark curiosity. It's really a first step on research, but it's also a way for people to share interesting things about their city. My favorite fact about Anne Hutchinson's house is it's now a Chipotle. So why should you participate in When and Where in Boston? You get to share your local history with the world. And when I mean local, I mean local. You can share when your building was built. You can talk about when events that happened in your neighborhood, you know, who was elected when, like all of those very, very local activities. That's something that can go in this database. You can also be a resource for your community, and you can take the time to uplift obscure, forgotten stories that may not be in a regular textbook, because they have to cut it down for size. But this is all-encompassing in a way that a lot of textbooks aren't. And then you can help people of all ages learn about the city in an accessible format. So how do you contribute? So these are the different uh, categories that you can have your entry be on. You can have a who, a notable person, a family, a group. So that might be, Paul Revere, um, the Royals, and we were just talking about the Bostonian Society. What could be buildings? Like when was the Howard Athenaeum built and when did it burn down? When events in this day in history, so when was the Boston Massacre? When was there No King's protest? All of those kinds of things are specific events tied to a date. Aware, there's a really extensive street map in this program. So basically every street is accounted for, and you can fill in basically every street. And then, like I said, works of art and literature, quotes, maps, all those kinds of miscellaneous things that you can find in Boston. So this is a step-by-step guide. This is just an example. So my example is uh, the filming of Little Women at the Gibson House Museum in October 2018. If you have seen the movie, a lot of the scenes in the boarding house are filmed there. So first thing you do is you go onto the website and make sure someone else hasn't already done it. So, um, oop, the if you look here, these are all screenshots. You can search keyword. It's pretty easy to search for keywords in this particular instance because it is a family name. You can double check that it's cut off on this one, but you can double check that you have all events selected, so it goes through everything. And then, you look through, oh, here's the Gibson houses built in 1859, but that's not the fact that we're focusing on right now. And then you can use the map, you can zoom in on where it is if you know the address. And neither of these two pins are my fact. So perfect. Now we can keep going. So you should do your research and find some good sources. Entries should be based on previously published works from reliable sources, books, periodicals, reputable websites. So our sources are going to be the official website of the production company that made Little Women, and then Boston.com, which is a reputable news source for local events, and then the Gibson House Museum, which has a page on this event. So then you write your entry. It should be up to 250 words in a neutral tone, in short, fact-filled declarative sentences. You make sure you do it chronologically, and quotations should be attributed in the text. So this is my example. Feel free to read it. It's just a very basic description, discussing the when and what happened. So. Now that we have written it, you need to cite your sources. You don't have to do a formal citation. It doesn't have to like be in Chicago style or anything like that. But it's good to have, who wrote it, the title, where you got it, the link, the date if you can. But again, um, you know, it's not super necessary to have all of the things you might have for a, formal academic paper. And then, like I said, suggested links should be reliable local nonprofit organizations. And then I also put the Sony Pictures Little Women because that is the source of the film. So then you find images. Um, they should be JPEG files. They should have, these are um, the size it should be. you should say if you have permission to use it, and this is, courtesy of Sony Pictures. Here is the image we have here. Good sources for images are the Digital Commonwealth, which is basically all of Massachusetts nonprofit collections are on there, and Wikimedia Commons, which is a very accessible source for images from all over the web. All right. Now you have everything put together. There is the um, how do you actually submit? So you go to the submission form, and it's a little bit hidden right now. We're working on moving it. But for now, if you go to the contact button on the home page, and then underneath the contact, once it pulls up the contact page, you click on use our suggestion form. Then you get to fill it out. So I'm saying that this is a request for a new entry. I uploaded my image file right here, and and then I copy pasted my sources and my entry right in here. It's just an open text box. So if you want to, add a little note or something, you can do that in there as well. The suggestion box is not capped at 250 because you also have to add your sources. And then you have to complete the CAPTCHA. So just to make sure you're a human. Um, and then you wait for your submission to be reviewed. And hopefully pretty soon it will end up on the website. And I'm now able to answer questions. It's okay.
Here's a basic question.
Yeah.
Who's it aimed at? I'm getting the sense that it's aimed, that you're wanting to recruit, people to add to the site. And the site itself is kind of Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia, though, is very closely vetted and
Mhm.
monitored.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how closely you guys think that you'll be able to do with this.
So no, got it. Yeah. So the question was the fact that Wikipedia is very closely monitored. Are we going to be able to do that? And um in addition, like who's the target audience? So I can speak to the Wikipedia comparison. Nothing automatically goes through. So that submission form gets sent to the editor and the review board, which is expert historians. So it's not gonna you don't click submit and it automatically uploads. So there is a vetting process to it, different from Wikipedia's system, but that is definitely accounted for. I will also say in terms of audience, we really think that it is a great opportunity for research for students, learning how to research, learning how to write historiographically, like writing in a historian's voice, finding good sources. So we're working with Boston Public Schools to make this a tool for students. We're thinking roughly like, middle school and up. And then we do think there is a lot of opportunity for amateur historians who might be looking for very specific information about like, when was your building built? You know, who was running for city council in 1956? Like these kind of very specific things that are in, kind of disparate places in history books that concentrate it and become the resource for Boston history.
So can nonprofit organizations use this?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you can either submit it or use it as a resource.
And so can we display everything in the site?
Sorry?
So like, say we create these pages,
Mm-hmm.
entries, things about our
Mhm.
project.
Mm-hmm.
And then can we also afterwards use that site to display our information?
Yeah, so you can link it. I'm not sure on a technical level, like if you could like extract stuff from the site to portray it or to display it on a different site. I am not technical in that way, but it's definitely an open resource for you. We are suggesting people can like maybe include the link to the website on their website, and maybe you can make a particular link, let's say you're Jamaica Plain, you can have the link go directly to the search query of, things that happen in Jamaica Plain. Again, I'm not sure from a programming perspective if you'd be able to get stuff that's on When and Where in Boston back onto your website, but that is definitely, I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know how it would how it would happen.
Did you already have your own website?
We're working on.
Okay.
So we're working on like various exhibits, to do in Chinatown. And, like suppose, we wanted say we put all this information in about, the history of the community. And then we want it to be available at our site.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, it's not the kind of way, it's not a, I guess for my product development, for my product developer days, it's not like there's an API that'll like connect one website to another and just allow a feed of data from our website to your website. So either if you're going to create your own website and you want people to see what's on your destination, the best place to put the information is directly on your website. What this would do though is allow the data to be seen by a bigger audience. So if you go onto the When and Where Boston website, you can you can filter on neighborhoods. And if you don't just want to see what happened in Chinatown, you pick Chinatown, and then all the facts about Chinatown will show up. And you can narrow it down by particular people or places within Chinatown,
Time period.
particular streets within Chinatown, time period.
Yeah.
So it would just be a little bit of educating your particular audience to how the website works. And I think there's enough basic computer savvy that is required for this in the general public for them to be able to figure it out.
I will
But you may have
say,
to give them a little nudge.
an additional thing is if, for example, you wanted to say like, when like when the Chinatown Historical Society was created or something like that, if that's an event on here, the link can be back to your website. So it can be cross linked in that way.
Can we share the website itself?
Yeah. This is yeah, yeah. Okay, so can people still see my screen?
So if you
Go
go
ahead.
down to I'm gonna mess this up because it's not my computer. Here we go. Oh, do you mind navigating that, JD, just to save time? Because I'm gonna.
What do you want to
just
do?
go down to one of the topics down below. There we go. Like pick a who. And then biographical, and then no, actually no, that's not a good one. I'll go back to like what.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's say building directory. And then if you select a neighborhood, and I think
It's under downtown.
yeah, so the way Jim Vrabel, the creator, the way he has it organized is some neighborhoods show up, even the West End where we represent shows up downtown.
We
So
had words with him about that.
yeah,
We want it to be our own
we're gonna
neighborhood.
talk a little bit about the future in a minute. So
Type.
oh, sorry. And sometimes they ask you for very specific. Let's put arts and cultural and put apply. And there are no matching. What else could we do? Maybe schools. There we go. So if you put in Chinatown schools, you get like the Josiah Quincy School comes up. So if your own website doesn't do what you want it to do and you want to use When and Where Boston, you could just tell your people, use When and Where Boston, just go into the search function, pick Chinatown, and they'll be able to find your facts.
So I missed the first part, so you want people to enter data in here, so you're building the data, building the database.
Yes. Yeah. So we are building a database, but it's crowdsourced and it's public. So anyone can contribute to it. But unlike, there is a editing process that is created by expert historians. So anyone can contribute, but it will be fact checked is basically.
I would say that, I mean, the main purpose of the site is to be an educational tool. Or it could be educational, just a fun tool, just a fun tool for people who are just interested in history to use for their information, or as we said, for students. Because it is the facts in it is somewhat like an encyclopedia. So the way Jim Vrabel designed this was to be facts about Boston. So it's a starting point for a lot of situations. It's a starting point, and then you go on and do your own research to further that. By virtue of how it's built, it's also a database. We haven't really, and Jim hasn't, and then we haven't yet. The West End Museum really thought about how we use that data in terms of sharing it in other ways, but it's something that we could do down the road. But the purpose isn't just to, I mean, it is a preservation tool in a sense, but I think we also have to understand that almost all this information is going to be somewhere else.
But it's scattered.
It's scattered, right?
It's a-
This just brings it together.
Concentrating.
But
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of it is what it is thing. I mean, I don't think Jim wasn't trying to change the world with this. He was just trying to come up with a fun way for people who care about Boston history, a fun resource for them to go to.
Makes sense to have a central depository, so that, you're doing something on, North End or East Boston or different neighborhoods that you're not looking at all different places, so it makes sense to have it coordinated.
Should we do a couple from the?
We have a question online. Has this been tried out in other cities or is it unique to Boston?
So this is unique to Boston. I mean, if you have a couple, $1 million lying around and want to extend it to the entire Northeast, you're welcome to email us at the West End Museum. But yes, for now it is Boston based. However, the map, and I'll show you the map, does go, you can zoom out past Boston. So you can see, there's entries in Charlestown, but there's also, here's one farther down south, and then there's some in Milton, and then there's some in Lynn, and I think there's some even farther away. So like it's not it doesn't stop existing at the borders of the city of Boston, but primarily it is focused on Boston. Yep.
Let me see if I can summarize how you can search. You can search by date.
Yep.
You can search by a limited number of places.
Mhm.
As defined in the database.
Yep.
So how about a real world example?
Mhm.
I give tours in my neighborhood of Jamaica Plain.
Okay.
In the Stony Brook neighborhood of Jamaica Plain.
All right, there we go.
And which happens to be my own neighborhood.
Mhm.
At the corner of Emery Street and Cornwall Street.
All right. Well, I need to go to
That's
I need to go to the map section, and I don't drive, so you're gonna have to guide me. But here is what we will do. So we will go to down to JP. You see a major street that's next to? Yep, here. Okay. Cornwall Street. So there's one here. This is the Brookside Park Family Life Center established. Like I said, this isn't filled in at the moment. If you want a project, there you go.
uh,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I should mention, because you brought up walking tours, we're collaborating with different people. JD already mentioned a collaboration to help the Boston Public Schools use this for their history curriculum.
Sure.
We've also talked to Boston by Foot, who you've probably heard of, and they're interested in they're interested in this too, whether it's using it for their own resources, giving tours, or they said some of their tour guides who are amateur, actual and amateur historians might want to enter some facts in there. So,
Ah,
but there's also a basic keyword search, so you don't have to always limit your search to, you don't have to always
Yeah.
use the filters to go down to neighborhood, street, etc. You can put a keyword.
So if someone have a keyword that they'd want to try.
Don't do something like church because
There's a
in
bazillion.
Boston about
There's a
3
bazillion of them. Hare. Okay, let's see what happens. So, um,
Is that someone's name?
Yeah, it's his name.
Maybe we get the hair.
oh, I should put it in subject.
Do you have the person's full name?
Small.
Oh, but you're just testing it.
Steve.
unique.
No, not in.
Here. There you go. There's your opportunity for an entry.
Emily, what? Walsh or Walsh?
Oh, BALCH.
Yep, born in Boston. Um, well, we'll look at here. Yeah, Nobel Peace Prize.
Just to put this in perspective, there are over 60,000 entries in here, but not much more than 60,000. So if you think about a city like Boston that's been around since, let's say, when the first European settlers showed up, 1625, you're talking about 400 years of facts, and there's only 66,000 in there right now. So there is a lot of opportunity to enter things. At the same time, under Jim Vrabel's current editorial, I don't know how to phrase it, reign. And I think it's right. I think it's right. He's taken upon himself to judge what's historically significant. And he also, and if he gets, and sometimes he'll go back to the person and ask questions. So we submitted things about the West End. Jim didn't immediately enter them in because he wasn't sure the person was historically significant. We basically had to tell him that the person was, because Jim is a very smart guy. He knows a lot of facts, but he doesn't know all of them. So he will go back to the person and answer them and say, who is this guy, Joseph Caruso, West End Museum? And we'll say, well, you haven't heard of him, but he led the committee to save the West End when the West End was about to be torn down. So he was significant to the neighborhood. So those discussions will be had. And if Jim gets stuck, he currently has an editorial board of about 30 people. That will shrink, I guarantee you that, because when Jim set this up, he thought he was going to get hundreds of facts a week, and they're not coming in that fast. So,
But with your help, we can change
no,
that.
that's very optimistic, JD. But I mean, to be realistic, that board. So on June 3rd, I should mention the governance of this. So the reason why we from the West End Museum are here because Jim, when he decided to retire in general and from this website, was trying to find repositories for it, someone to take it over, and he couldn't. He had trouble finding people. So when he had a discussion with the West End Museum, with whom he's had a relationship with us in the past, we agreed to take it. And so we've been in a transition process that ends on June 30th. Or is it June? How many days are in June? June 30th. Are in June 30th. And at that point, we will then take over the website. We will keep Jim on the advisory board along with Dennis, Dennis McCarthy, who's the technical side behind the website, because we still need their help. but Jim's presence will still be there. And then we are also going to take on some technical improvements. We're going to get we hope to get an intern from BU from their Spark program, which is an IT program, an IT organization they run. That'll be with us all summer to help us make some improvements, like making the entry point more visible, uh, making some of the filtering a bit more seamless and things like that. So we're looking forward. We want to build on Jim's great idea and on his, his passion to promote Boston history. But we understand that these kinds of, and again, I had a brief IT career, these things have to constantly improve, from just to keep them running, but also to keep people interested in it. So that's just a little bit about the future of it.
There's a lot of financial burden involved, taking on this as a program. How are you gonna fund
We have the money. We can get money through grants and donations. It's going to become part. It's going to fall. So I'm the cultural preservation manager, which is a fancy name for being the curator and the archivist. So we have decided this falls under the preservation side for now. JD and I work together on it because it also she's the interpretation manager, which includes education. So we see there's a symmetry between what we each do, and so we both run it. But right now it falls into my budget. We do have a budget. We are funded through different ways, like most nonprofits are. Probably not going to get into more detail on that. It's all legit. Don't worry. But we have a very active advancement program. So we are always looking for grants, and we're not worried about it. Right now, I can tell you the hosting costs this a minimum. It's probably costing more for our time for our education being the transition process with Jim than anything else. Yeah. We trust me, we thought about it because we're not going to take it on if we didn't think we could afford to keep it running.
Any other questions from the chat? Okay. Well, anyone who wants to stick around, maybe do some research, oh. No? All right. You're welcome to, chat about potential entries. Seems like we already found one that needs to be filled in.
Can I promote Jim for a second?
Yeah.
All right. So Jim Fable, the founder, trust me, he doesn't need sales on these books, but if you're interested, this is the book, When in Boston. So this is where the website came from. Jim wrote the book, and then he decided to create the website so that it could live on, so he could add entries. A lot of the entries from the book did go into the website, but again, Jim has added on more to that. And I guess one of the reasons Jim is best known is for this great history of Boston called A People's History of Boston. And we love it at the West End because it really does a good job of telling the world about what happened in the West End during urban renewal, but it covers a lot of different neighborhoods. Yep. Alston Brighton's included in there, parts of JP, I believe. I think Chinatown's included. Yep. All right, there's my pitch for Jim.
All right, well, yeah, thank you. And thank you to everyone who is here on Zoom. Let us know if you have any other questions, and feel free to email us. I can be reached at Jaydie at thewestendmuseum.org, and Bob is Bob at thewestendmuseum.org. I hope I don't have to spell that. Let us know if you have any questions. And if you're on the Zoom, have a great night. We will still be here in person if anyone has any follow-up questions. But I think other than that, I think we're good on, yeah.